So this is the second week with the camera, and the first week was quite a novelty, and I wasn't really thinking too much about it, and I didn't really think much of it, and when things got uploaded I thought, oh, that's a novelty, and I thought, oh, maybe people would watch it. And then getting ready to walk today, I thought, oh, I'm going to have to say something. It's going to have to be good now because it's going to be recorded. And I sort of noticed that there was this sort of worry, this feeling of I'm not good enough, which is always there. Where there's suffering, there's almost always, in my case, I think it's always this, deep down there's this sense of I'm not good enough, or what if I fail? And it wasn't a big sensation, but I noticed that, and I then thought, I've been doing this for just over 6 months, almost every week, and rather than using that truth as a reason for me to not worry, I immediately thought, well, I've been doing this for 6 months and now I've run out of things to say. And so it's interesting that the mind can cast doubt and worry in any situation, or it can cast gladness and confidence, and it's not really in our control 100%. We can have small arguments with the mind and say, no, this is worry, or hold your horses, you're getting a bit carried away there, and we can bring it back. But we're never really in control of our thoughts. All we can really do is acknowledge these thoughts when they arise, and try and nip them in the bud and not get carried away, and move away from those extremes of fear and self-importance, or self-aggrandizement, or any of these strong emotions, and quickly bring ourselves back into that state of unknowing, that maybe it's good, maybe it's bad, maybe it will go well, maybe it won't, and acknowledging that unknowingness of the future. And that's really the wisdom of not getting carried away, and just taking stock of what we actually know, rather than what we think might happen, and realizing that there is this worry and doubt, and there's these feelings of not good enough, and it'd be foolish to think that we will get to a point where we will completely extinguish them, and there are people who may, but we won't get to that point by having that as a goal of an absolute, of never having fear or worry. But what we can do practically is try and worry less, and try and notice when we're worrying slightly sooner, and we get to that point where, rather than having these strong emotions for hours on end, maybe it's rather than being angry at someone for hours, 8 hours, we're angry at them in the same situation, we're angry at them for 7 hours, and we've gained an hour of happiness. Or we're worrying for 1 less hour a day, and it's moving to that place of less, rather than this goal of getting rid of absolutes, which is theoretical, and it might be the truth for some, but for most of us, at least, and certainly me, that my goal isn't to become nothing. My goal isn't to completely dissolve my ego, or attain complete liberation. It's just trying to find a few more moments of liberation in the day, a few more moments of calm, a few less moments of worry. And that, to me, seems like a better, more fun way of going about it. And just trying to enjoy our meditation rather than trying to achieve anything with meditation, trying to just be slightly less, have that slightly less of that me story, that rather than focusing on my happiness or my calm, just focusing on trying to make someone else's day a little bit better as well. And that's really ego death, when we're thinking of others and not ourselves. And there is a time for us to focus on ourselves, and we can have talks about boundaries and being kind to ourselves. And that certainly has its place, and I'm certainly a massive advocate, and I've talked about that in the past, and I'll talk about it again. But it's important to realise that one easy way of getting over ourselves can just be to ask someone else how their day's doing. If we're feeling terrible or worried, just asking someone else. And then all of a sudden our problems can seem a little bit smaller, we can put them in perspective. And for me that helps. And having those people that we're there for, they'll in turn be there for us. And when we are overwhelmed, we won't be so shy to say, actually, I'm not doing so well, can we have a chat? And asking for help is, again, it stops us being so myopic, so self-centered. We can share our problems, but obviously constantly sharing our problems with other people, or constantly absorbing our problems, absorbing the problems of others is too far in those extremes as well. So when the Buddha talked about the middle way, it can mean lots of different things, but it's often about avoiding extremes in all sort of matters, whether extreme aversion or extreme lust or attachment for things, or extremely focusing on everyone else so we don't have to deal with ourselves, or extremely focusing on our own practice and neglecting others. And while we have to sort our own problems out before sorting anyone else's out, it doesn't have to be so absolute. We can focus on ourselves but also help others, and we can focus on others but also help ourselves. And it's knowing where we fall on our spectrum of we're gravitating towards helping others or gravitating towards solving our own problems, and moving into a state of balance. And yeah, that's how we can grow and become less at the same time. And meditation can help, and seeing these sensations as an impermanent feature in our lives, seeing that heat comes and goes. I remember I was working on a farm, and that year the first shift I ever did on a farm, it was at 6 o'clock in the morning. It was -15, and it had never been -15 in March before at that time. And I said, it was so cold. And what do you do when it's this cold? And the farmer said, just put on another coat. And I'd never heard of the phrase of another coat. I thought you could only wear one coat at a time. And then in August it was 34, and we were pouring concrete and raking concrete. And I said, I'm really hot. And he turned round and said, you never stopped complaining. 6 months ago you said you were cold. and that farmer taught me more about Dhamma than a lot of Dhamma teachers, because he always had this understanding, and we can use the nature of our, you can use our surroundings as well to teach us. Everything can be a teacher. That farmer was certainly one of my favourite Dhamma teachers, and I'm sure I'm going to try and remember to share a few more, because I've certainly got a lot of teachings from him. I remember I finished milking the cows at his dairy farm, and I said, I'm going to a meditation retreat, a meditation evening, and I was going to cycle the half an hour or so bike ride up to this meditation place, and he said, "Oh, may the peace be with you." And I said, I think that's a Star Wars quote, mate. And he said, "Is it good enough?" And in that moment I realised it was. And he hadn't read a book on the Dhamma, but he certainly lived it moment to moment. And I've got so many fond memories of these teachings and wisdom, and it was the wisdom that the Buddha taught, and he realised it himself in his own way. And that's when we talk about truth and wisdom, it's not and the Buddha was quite keen to say it's not his truth, it's not his version of reality, it's a universal thing, and we all can come to the same conclusions, because what the Buddha talked about is the same as every other spiritual teacher, and it's universal. The Four Noble Truths are noble. They are laws of nature. Everything is impermanent. The light switches seem impermanent as well. The lights above me are coming and going, and knowing that life is impermanent isn't a Buddhist truth. Knowing that suffering arises isn't a Buddhist suffering, isn't something peculiar to Buddhists. We all suffer, and there are many teachings on suffering. So the existence of suffering and the existence of impermanence isn't a Buddhist concept. It's something that will exist. It existed before the Buddha talked about it, and teachers talked about it before the Buddha, and people are still talking about it now. So whatever way we find the truth and find wisdom, whether it's sitting on a cushion contemplating the horizon and passing of thoughts or sensations, and finding wisdom in realising impermanence through that, or working outside in the impermanence of the seasons, it doesn't really matter. Wisdom is wisdom. There's and the truth is the truth, and however we get to that is however we get to that. And I've certainly learnt from a lot of things. I certainly learned a lot of the Dharma from not only my current dog, but my previous dog, and I thought he was a very good meditation teacher. There's certain things that he struggled with. He often lost his equanimity when it came to dinner time. But then I realised so did I. I can get consumed by hunger. I can stop thinking about, if I stop eating for long enough, it will be all I can think about. So that was another teaching from my dog about you think you're so smart, but you're bound by the same, I don't know, desires of food that he was, hopefully to a slightly lesser degree than a staffy, but maybe not. So those are my thoughts for today. Hopefully some of the things I've said have been of benefit to people. Maybe not now, maybe in the future, but yeah, those are my thoughts for the benefit of others.